Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're getting into something I think affects a lot of us, that really deep connection between our feelings and, well, how we eat.
Definitely. We're looking beyond just, grabbing an extra cookie.
Right. It's the whole picture. We want to explore both sides, using food for comfort, yeah, but also when stress just makes your appetite disappear completely.
Exactly. And if you've ever, found yourself heading to the fridge when you know you're not actually hungry, or maybe the opposite, you just forget to eat when things get overwhelming, this is for you.
Yeah, the goal here isn't to talk about willpower, is it? It's more about understanding these as maybe coping strategies.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Emotional overeating and emotional undereating.
Yeah.
They're often these really powerful ways we try to cope, consciously or not.
It's fascinating how differently our bodies and minds can react. We mostly hear about emotional eating as like comfort food after a bad day.
True. That's the common image. But it's really broader than that.
So these two things, overeating and undereating, they seem like polar opposites.
They do, but it's helpful to see them as maybe two sides of the same coin. Both reactions, whether it's eating more or eating less when stressed or upset, they tell us something important.
Tell us what?
Well, they give us clues about how we're handling what's going on inside, how we process emotions. Some studies even suggest that suppressing specific feelings, maybe like anger, could be linked even more strongly to reaching for certain foods than, say, just feeling sad.
Interesting. Okay, let's start with the one people probably recognize more. Emotional overeating. What does that look like day to day?
So at its heart, it's using food to manage feelings. Simple as that, really.
Yeah.
It's not driven by physical hunger. Your stomach isn't rumbling.
It's driven by something else.
Yeah, you're turning to food for, like, comfort or maybe to relieve stress, sometimes even just to distract yourself from whatever it is you're feeling.
And what kinds of feelings usually trigger this? Is it always sadness?
Not always. Sadness is a big one, sure.
Yeah.
But also anxiety, loneliness, even boredom, that kind of restless feeling.
Ah, boredom eating. I know that one.
Right. It feels like there's this void, an emotional gap, and food is just, well, it's there.
Yeah.
It's an easy way to try and fill it, temporarily at least.
Temporarily, that's the key word, isn't it? Because it feels good for a moment, that relief. But what happens next?
Yeah, that's where the cycle often kicks in. You get that immediate comfort, maybe a little mood boost from the food,
Mhm.
but then often it's followed by less pleasant feelings.
Like guilt.
Guilt, definitely.
Yeah.
Feeling bloated, maybe shame, and that can set up this really tough pattern.
How so?
Well, you eat to feel better from the initial emotion, then you feel bad because you ate that way, and then sometimes you might turn back to food to cope with those bad feelings.
Wow, yeah. It just loops back on itself. I've definitely felt the quick comfort, then the crash, and feeling even worse. Like a double whammy.
Exactly, and there's actually a biological reason this can get so ingrained.
Oh, like in the brain.
Yeah. When we eat certain foods, especially things high in sugar or fat, our brain releases chemicals like dopamine. These are sort of the feel-good messengers. So your brain starts to link eating those specific foods with feeling better, even if it's just for a short time. It reinforces the behavior. It becomes a learned response in the brain's reward system.
So when people say just have more willpower, that's really missing the point then.
Completely missing the point. It's so important to understand that emotional eating, most of the time, isn't about a lack of self-control. It's a coping mechanism rooted in trying to meet an emotional need. Just saying stop it doesn't fix the underlying reason why it's happening.
That makes a lot more sense. Okay, so that's overeating. What about the other side, emotional undereating? You said it's less talked about.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
Emotional undereating is essentially losing your appetite or just
Yeah.
forgetting to eat when you're under intense stress or feeling really overwhelmed. Your food intake drops significantly.
It's strange because sometimes, in our culture, losing your appetite or eating less might even be seen as good, especially if someone's trying to lose weight.
Right? There can be that misconception. But when it's driven by stress or difficult emotions, it's absolutely not a healthy response. A temporary loss of appetite, if you're, say, sick with the flu, is one thing.
But this is different.
Very different. Emotionally driven undereating is a clear sign the body's stress response system is highly activated. It's not healthy or sustainable.
So what's going on inside the body then? Why does the hunger just switch off?
If you think about our nervous system, when we face major stress, the body can go into this kind of, well, almost a shutdown mode in some ways. Think fight or flight.
Okay.
In that state, the body's priority is immediate survival, dealing with a perceived threat. Things like digestion, feeling hungry, they get put on the back burner. Resources are diverted elsewhere.
So the body's basically saying, no time to eat, got bigger problems right now.
Sort of, yeah. Those normal hunger cues, the signals from your stomach or hormones, they could just fade away or disappear entirely
Yeah.
because the stress response is overriding them.
Wow. It's like the body's so caught up in the emotional turmoil, food just doesn't even register.
Pretty much, it's a physiological reaction. Just like the dopamine release in overeating is a neurochemical one.
Yeah.
They're both ways our systems react to significant emotional states.
Okay, so whether it's overeating or undereating driven by emotions, what are the longer-term consequences if these patterns continue?
Well, unfortunately, both PABs can lead to problems over time. You can end up with nutritional imbalances, for instance.
How so?
With overeating, you might be consuming a lot of certain types of food, maybe lacking variety and essential nutrients. With undereating, you're simply not getting enough fuel or nutrients overall.
And that would affect energy levels, I imagine.
Definitely. Persistent low energy is common. And mood swings, too. Both patterns can really impact your mood stability.
And I guess that those physical issues, low energy, poor nutrition, could then make the emotional struggles worse. Another cycle.
Exactly. It's often a negative feedback loop. Poor physical health from these eating patterns can worsen anxiety or depression symptoms, which might then trigger more emotional eating or undereating. It feeds itself.
That sounds tough. And maybe isolating. If you're going through this, you might feel like you're the only one.
That's such an important point. People can feel a lot of shame or confusion. They might not realize how common these responses actually are. Just knowing you're not alone, that other people experience this, can be a huge first step.
Okay, so for someone listening who thinks, yeah, that sounds like me, what's the way forward? How do you start to shift these patterns?
The absolute crucial first step, I think, is just awareness.
Yeah.
Pausing and asking yourself honestly, okay, am I eating this because my body needs fuel? Am I physically hungry? Or is there something else going on? Am I feeling stressed, bored, sad?
Just checking in with yourself in that moment.
Exactly. That simple core-in can be incredibly powerful. It starts to break the automatic link.
And once you start noticing, okay, yeah, this is emotion-driven, what then? What can you do instead?
The next step is building alternative coping tools, healthier ways to deal with those feelings.
Like what?
It could be lots of things. Maybe journaling, getting the feelings out on paper, or calling a friend, connecting with someone. Physical activity can be great. Even just a short walk can shift your state.
Mindfulness, maybe like meditation.
Yes, mindfulness practices like meditation can be really helpful too. Learning to sit with the emotion, observe it without immediately reacting by reaching for food or shutting down your appetite. The idea is to find ways to process the feeling itself, not just manage it with food.
Those sound like good practical things to try, but what if someone feels like these patterns are really, really stuck? Like they've tried, but it's just too hard to change alone.
That's a really important situation, and that's where getting professional support is key. There's absolutely no shame in it.
Who would you suggest talking to?
A therapist or counselor can be amazing for exploring the deeper emotional roots, the why behind the patterns. And a registered dietitian can provide really practical guidance on nutrition, building healthier habits, and healing your relationship with food itself.
So getting help is actually a sign of strength.
Totally. It shows self-awareness and a commitment to your well-being. It's not weakness at all.
Absolutely. Okay, as we kind of wrap this up, what's the main takeaway message you'd want people to hold on to?
I think the biggest thing is to understand emotional eating, both over and under eating, primarily as a coping strategy. It's your mind and body trying, in their own way, to handle difficult feelings.
So seeing it that way, maybe with less judgment?
Yeah, exactly. Less judgment, more compassion for yourself. If you recognize these patterns, that's huge progress already. Try to approach it with curiosity, not criticism. Be kind to yourself, especially during tough times.
That self-compassion piece feels really vital here. It's easy to beat yourself up about food habits.
It really is. But gentleness helps create space for change.
So maybe one last thought for our listeners. If they notice their eating changing with their mood, what's a good question to ask themselves to dig a little deeper?
A really powerful one is, what am I really needing right now?
Okay.
Because it prompts you to look past the food or the lack of hunger and ask, is it comfort I need? Connection, rest, a distraction. Identifying that underlying need is the key to finding healthier ways to meet it.
That really shifts the focus, doesn't it? From the food to the feeling.
Yes. Ultimately, how we relate to food is so tied up with our overall emotional health. Taking care of yourself emotionally and physically, that's the foundation for building a more balanced, peaceful relationship with eating.
This has been so helpful, really clarifying. Thanks for breaking down such a complex topic in a way that makes so much sense. It's crucial to approach this with understanding, not blame.
My pleasure. It's an important conversation to have.